My name is Rosa Della Camera. I'm a shareholder with the firm of Becker & Polyakoff out of our Coral Gables office. Welcome to all, and thank you for coming to tonight's candidate forum, which is for the hotly contested District 2 Commission race, which will take place on November 3rd. Our firm, Becker & Polyakoff, is very, very proud to sponsor this event tonight as a public service for the District 2 residents. We serve as pro bono counsel to some of the co-hosting groups, that's BHA, DNA, and BNA. And we also represent many associations in the district. So we felt it was appropriate for us to help this constituency make an informed decision on their November 3rd election for the very important commission seat. 9 candidates have thrown their hat into this ring, and thank you very much for all of you who have come here tonight for this important opportunity to allow the residents of District 2 to hear you a little bit about yourselves and about your positions on some of the very important issues. This forum is being co-hosted by several community civic organizations, which represent the bulk of the residential and commercial district, all the way from Brickell to 36th Street, just off of the Julia Tuttle. So it's quite a very large footprint of the folks that are represented in the audience tonight. BHA, the Brickell Homeowners Association, DNA is the Downtown Neighbors Alliance, BNA is the Biscayne Neighborhoods Association, and of course the Brickell Area Association. So I'd like to just do a very brief shout out to thank the presidents who, I know Gail is not here, but Gail Feldman is the president of BHA. The organization has celebrated 25 years this year since the founding, so that's really the granddaddy of the organizations. We also have Andres Altave, the president of Biscayne Neighborhoods Association. Andres, where are you? There you are, right there in the black polo. Danny Ponce, the president of the Brickell Area Association. Danny, where are you? There you are. Thank you, Danny. And David Pina, president of the DNA, Downtown Neighbors Alliance. There's David in the back. Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you very much for promoting this event through your organizations as well. Thank you to you all, and thank you to your boards for co-hosting this event, and in particular, very, very special thanks to Natalie Brown for doing the very heavy lifting on organizing this event. Thank you very much, Natalie. So there's one other little tiny debate going on tonight, hosted by CNN in California, but we think this one is way more important. Due to the scheduling of that other event tonight, we had a last-minute roster change. Michael Putney was supposed to originally be the moderator for tonight, but he got called away to cover the Republican debate. But no worries, we have another way better Michael to serve as moderator tonight for us. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator tonight. He's a member of our law firm's Community Association Law and Litigation Group, and he is the lead Community Association litigator in our Becker & Polyakoff Miami office. He's also very active in the Miami-Dade County civic, charitable business, and legal communities. Michael used to serve as commissioner and vice mayor on Miami Beach. He's currently president of the Miami Beach Bar Association. He serves on the Dade County Bar Association Board of Directors and many, many other organizations which are simply too long to name. But I would like to introduce our moderator, my law partner, and my very good friend, Michael Gongora.
Thank you, Rosa, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, and thank you for the wonderful turnout we have, notwithstanding the Republican primary and the weather. I will do my best job to moderate this in an entertaining yet strict fashion, candidates. I've never actually moderated an event, but I've actually sat through many of them during my tenure on the Miami Beach Commission. The questions that I'm going to be asking tonight came up as top issues from the 4 community groups that Rosa introduced earlier. Just to give you some ground rules, we're going to start with a 2-minute introduction by each of the candidates. For each of the questions that we ask, you will have 2 minutes to answer. There is going to be a timer on the screen, so we're going to cut you off right at about 2 minutes, let you wrap up your thoughts. To the extent that I think a candidate has perhaps bashed somebody, that somebody else needs to respond, I'll allow very brief rebuttal. I may ask you all the same questions, or I may ask you all different questions. So the rules are that there are no rules. candidates that we have in alphabetical order, which I'll name briefly before you do your own intro. Williams Armbruster, Javier Gonzalez, Rosa Maria Palomino, Ken Joseph Russell, Teresa Sarnoff, Seth Scarley, Grace Solaris, and Lori Woods. In addition, we do have the current commissioner from Group 2 is here this evening. I know I saw Commissioner Mark Sarnoff. Welcome. In addition, we do have a judicial candidate, a friend of mine who lives in the district, Carol Jody Brees, who is running for Circuit Court Judge next year. And before we begin, I'd like to give a special thank you to the First Presbyterian Church, Pastor Chris Atwood and Martin Mola for hosting us here this evening. Thank you so much. So without further ado, let's get started. The candidates, you have to share the one microphone. So if we could pass it down, we're going to start this first one in alphabetical order and give you each 2 minutes to introduce yourself to the group.
Well, praise the Lord Jesus. My name is Williams Armbruster. My wife and I are three-generation residents of this Coconut Grove community. I'm a father of 8 wonderful children, husband of 1 darling wife, and I retired from Florida Power Line to pursue a nursing career, but I saw that what I had to offer would be more beneficial in the political arena without being a politician. I retired and started with the Head Start, Miami-Dade County Head Start Policy Council, to which I was a council member for the tenure of 3 years, and made it clear when I left that I would continue to be there until every child in Miami-Dade County is at Head Start. Head Start is going to be a program for people with no money, people with plenty money, and people with too much money, because we need the social development skills and the educational tools to work on our children as soon as possible. So with the Policy Council, and with Coconut Grove Drug-Free Coalition, I'm with the Drug-Free Coalition, which we're trying to steer our children away from illegal substances, and that's ongoing. And I'm a regular at the commission chambers because it doesn't seem like people, the invisible people is who I'll be representing, because the invisible people are the children. It's the seniors, it's the working men and women, and it's what's invisible is the need for adequate housing for low and moderate income households. And the problems we're having with our youth today is because society abandoned the grandmothers, the grandparents of the youth today. And it's happening with the children of the grandparents, and then the children of today, they don't know what to do with themselves. They got too much time out of school. They have almost 8 months of school a year, and my time is run up. Thank you very much. Love you all. Bye.
Am I on the clock? Hi, good evening. My name is Javier Gonzalez, and for those of you who know me, this is a very special event. I am wearing long pants, so this answers the question that I do own long pants. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. I came from Cuba in 1965 with my family, and I grew up here. This has been my neighborhood for the past 50 years. And I tell people that I grew up public. I went to public schools, I took public transportation, and I played in public parks. Public services are always going to be very, very important to me. I grew up, like I said, in Coconut Grove, and then my parents moved to the area of Douglas Park, where my first job was at Douglas Park as a city employee. And take a great deal of pride that I made 70 cents an hour or something like that back in the early 70s. So I've been working for most of my life. All my adult career I have been in business. I was the youngest sales manager at Jordan Marsh's history back in the late 70s. And after that, I've owned a business for the last 35 years. I had a bakery, and then I also turned into a realtor back in 2000. If you live in Miami, you know that we end up with realtors sooner or later. I'm also the former chair of the Coconut Grove Village Council. I was elected in 2013, and one of my goals when we became part of the council, instead of fighting District 2, which has really been the last 8 years of this council, what we try to do is go out to outreach and try to get as much, people involved in a lot of the governments. So we reached out to county, we reached out to state, we reached out to some of the feds and also the districts. And I take that as a great accomplishment. We actually built the village council back up to something that's a little bit more prominent and has a little bit more presence. So again, I am running because I've been asked to run. I am somebody that is looking forward to solving problems. It's really been what I do a lot with my real estate career. So again, I thank you all for being here. We appreciate the attention and have a great night. Thanks.
I'm a little accent wrong, so I'm yeah. Hi, my name is Rosie Palomino. I am a veteran educator of 19 years. I am a winemaker, and I am also the creator and producer of Miami After Dark Radio, a Bloomberg affiliate, in which all of these candidates participated in. I'm very happy about that. I'm also a local activist. I have a long range of civic accomplishments done pro bono. I have secured money for parks. I am the president of the Miami Parks Foundation. I am the vice president of the Golden Pines Neighborhood Association. And I am here because I want to leave legacies that matter. I believe in quality of life. Can I have a raise of hands of real people? If you don't work for a campaign, if you're not a lobbyist, can you raise your hand? I just really want to see this. Wonderful. We're talking to you. I am your campaign finance reform. I am so glad that you're the moderator because he had an illustrious commission career in Miami Beach. I've tried to push for this since 2013. I am not beholden to anyone. I am only beholden to you. That means I have not secured registered lobbyists to run my campaign in any way or received any money or PACs or ECOs or anything of that nature. I believe in voters first. So I believe in changing the toxic climate of the city of Miami first and foremost. I want to change that. I want to put you first. I am your solutions candidate. I believe in transparency before anything else, and then we can go and solve jobs, creation of creating streams of revenue to generate economy and promote jobs is important, because if kids don't have a future, our city doesn't have a future. So I just want to be transparent, and thank you very much.
Good evening. Sorry. My name is Ken Russell, and I would be delighted to be your next city commissioner. Which is something I wouldn't have said a couple of years ago because I never wanted to be a politician. I'm running because I had to. When my neighborhood was faced with a contaminated park, I stepped up and did what my commissioner should have done. Should I move? Sorry. I stepped up and did what my commissioner should have done. I gathered the neighbors. Is there any chance I could start over here? This is really difficult.
I'm going to ask, because I understand why the candidates want to get up and stand in front, because I used to like to do it. Let's not stay behind the table. Let's give you a restart. You were off to a good start.
Reset. Oh yes, sorry. Ken Russell. Delighted to be your city commissioner. Didn't intend to be a politician, but I stepped up when my neighborhood was faced with a contaminated park. I didn't feel that my commissioner handled it properly. I gathered the neighbors. I found a better solution. I convinced the city to change their plan, all without filing a lawsuit. That success was short-lived because I realized we have a lot of bigger fish to fry in the city. Traffic, homelessness, overdevelopment. There's a lot of good solutions for all of these. But at their core, we're never going to fully get there unless we recognize the need for a culture change of ethics in City Hall. Am I right?
Yes.
My opponent, Mrs. Sarnoff, her campaign, her candidacy, represents the big political machine of old school Miami. Her husband is funneling tremendous, obscene amounts of money to her campaign from developers using the power and leverage of his position. Does that make sense? Yes. It shouldn't, because it's wrong. It's a conflict of interest. And I believe Miami can do better. I know it can. We are in a renaissance right now in this city. of culture and art and technology. And I'm a part of this new generation of thinking, this new generation of politics. I've been a problem solver all my life. I have a track record of it in my business, in my community, and now I want to do it for Miami, but I need your help, I need your vote. Let's turn the page together. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Sarna, and I'm running for City of Miami Commissioner. People ask me why I'm running. I usually give them the quote that Stephen Sutloff has made famous now, and that's that we all have two lives. The second one starts when you realize you only have one. And so you have to make it count. You have to, when you go into the light, you aren't taking your cars, you aren't taking your jewelry, you aren't taking anything with you except your good deeds. So I come from a family of 10 girls. I'm number 4. I'm used to consensus and bringing people along and knowing when to stand up. My first job was working at the age of 16 for the family road construction company. I worked out with the road crews and got to do parts running, I got to flag girl, and even got to run heavy machinery. It was a good lesson for me, and I enjoyed it. Fast forward to the present, where I most recently managed the factory at Cigarette Racing Team, a boat manufacturer in Opelika, one of the few boat manufacturers that still manufactures here in Miami. That was a great experience for me. Now, I've been in Miami for over 35 years. I started volunteering at the Camilla's House over 10 years ago. I created End Homelessness Now to help facilitate a MAP program with the Camilla's House. That has brought over 100 people off the streets of Miami every day. That since has been taken, it's now being funded by the Homeless Trust. I also work with No Stray Bullets, which is an organization that teaches kids about the dangers and violence of gunfire. There are better ways to do it.
I'm sorry. Was that concluded? I was looking down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Seth Sclary. I lived in this district for 48 years going on. I lived in the Brickell area on 12th and Bayshore. It's now Brickell Bay Drive. I got wiped out in the hurricane then. But for the most part, I've lived in Coconut Grove. I started attending City of Miami Commission meetings in 1967. I've been to hundreds of them. And it's getting to the point where things are getting worse, not better. The lack of transparency, the backroom deals, the giving away millions of dollars to developers are trends that I see as very disturbing, and which is why I'm running. I think that Miami should be more people-friendly.
I don't know if it's your mic or my mic.
Okay. You have feedback coming from that microphone into the speakers.
I don't need the mic.
Okay, neither do I. Right. Anyway, I want to make Miami more people-friendly. I want to make it more pedestrian-friendly, more dog-friendly. I want to be a lot more trees in Brickell and downtown and Edgewood. We're becoming a concrete canyon because developers are building like crazy, and there's no control over the human aspects of life. And we have to do that. We need to revamp downtown, make it more friendly to people. We have 50,000 more people living in this area, in Brickell and downtown and Edgewater. And we have to be able to make it so that it's pleasant for them to live. We have to provide for the education of our children. I think Southside Elementary should go K through 8, which the City of Miami Commission can't do, but we could be a voice in doing that. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here, because these things sometimes are a little bit painful, and more so when a GOT debate is going on right now. My name is Grace Solaris. I've been living in Miami for 55 years, 48 in the same house in the North Grove. I am running for commissioner of this district solely for the following reasons. I want the voice of the people to be on the city commission. I want transparency from the city commission. I want accountability for the city commission. And most importantly, I want the people to be involved in the decision-making process of the government. We can no longer have a commissioner, whichever that may be, whoever that may be, making decisions on behalf of the people without consulting the people. So that is exactly why I'm running. You will see in my flyer, I'm a graduate of the University of Miami. I have a major in history, minor in English. I graduated magna cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, which means that I know how to read. So I do defend the neighborhoods of Miami. I was defending the neighborhood of Mr. Russell last Thursday on an issue that he took. He talked about Merry Christmas Park. Well, I needed to go there and actually point out an issue to Commissioner Sarnoff that needed to be on that legislation. And he agreed, and he instructed the city attorney to include it for the protection of the neighbors in his area. Because first of all, I am an activist, an advocate, somebody who fights for the people. And I stopped doing canvassing to attend that hearing and continue protecting the people. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you all for coming. My name is Lori Woods. I am a downtown business owner. I serve on the Downtown Miami Partnership Board and also on the Quality of Life Committee. I am here before you because our community deserves to enact the programs that are already in place. We have incredible solutions that have already been set forth. What we're lacking in is actually execution. The parks program, the connectivity of the river, the transportation issues. Our county and our city, as well as even our state, have a lot of these things already done. I don't believe that the commissioner's position should be to come up with solutions, but actually to involve the community, to make it very simple for your voices to be heard, and to actually get on it and get it done. I'm here before you because I collaborate well. I work collectively with people of all walks of life. I have spent the last 5 years getting to know people within my community, people of all facets, experts in certain areas, people that walk along the streets. I understand that homeless people are actually our neighbors. I think that we have a community of caring, amazing individuals. We are extremely vibrant, and we have the opportunity to take Miami into the future and really realize a world-class city. I don't think we should accept blame of this person or that. I think honestly we need to make it really easy for all of us to work together and to realize our future. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to change it up a little bit. We have so many candidates, I'm going to ask the timekeeper to reduce the time to 1 minute now per answer. Also, I would ask the candidates to please listen carefully to the questions and respond thereto, and for the listeners to hold them to their listening to the question and nobody avoiding it or going back to speaking points, as sometimes candidates do. Some of the most important issues to these community groups involve traffic, congestion, and police coverage. We got those over and over. So I'm going to start in reverse order. Ms. Woods, how could you make a difference in these issues relating to safety, law enforcement, and specifically assuring that there is adequate police representation in these communities?
Thank you very much. When it comes to public safety, I believe we already have a plan in place, which is to increase our police force. What we need to look at is thinking outside the box in the interim until we actually have the police ready to be on the beat. I have put a proposal forward to add private security within areas where public safety is needed. If we were to take private security and have them connected to the police officers, similar to what we do when we have large events such as Ultra, where they are not carrying ammunition and weaponry, but they have connectivity to our police force, we can then protect our citizens, we can save money, and we can band-aid the solution immediately so that people can participate within their community. Once we have people walking about in the streets, in some of the areas that have blight, then we can realize public safety.
Thank you.
Or did you also ask about transportation or traffic?
Sure. Let's start with safety and law enforcement. How could you make a difference in ensuring adequate police protection in these communities?
Well, certainly, both the police department and the fire department must have the latest technology in their department. That is a must. Also, we have to have sufficient police force out there on the streets. I think there's a tremendous amount of police officers in desk jobs that should be actually put out on the streets, patrolling our streets. I think the old way of actually having a police officer or several police officers being around an area, being around a neighborhood so that people would know him, that was what used to happen a long time ago when I was here, about 50 years ago. I think that should come back. There is a movement now in the city of Miami to actually put a little bit more money from the capital improvement section of our budget onto acquiring more police officers. I agree with that position. Thank you.
We have limited time. Let's wait till the closings for applause.
One of the aspects of policing, the City of Miami Police Department has a big problem. They keep wanting to increase the number of police officers, but you have 200 to 250 police officers a year retiring. The City of Miami is restricted in what kind of people they can hire. They have to have psychological tests, they have to have background tests, and because of this, it makes it more difficult to find people who are willing to come and work. The other problem is that some of them don't pay enough. They start the police officers at $40,000, where you come into a dangerous job and risk your life, where you can go to Pinecrest and start at $50,000. Where are you going to go? The other thing is...
All right, thank you.
Miami is in the bottom 20 for crime solving and safety. We need to be in the top 20, and we need to do this through more police officers. We currently have 2.0 officers per 1,000 residents. We need to take that up to at least 4.0 police officers per 1,000 residents. We also need to do community policing with a greater number of police officers. They can reach out in the community, gain the trust of the community, establish a relationship with them, help the community can help them solve crimes, and it's a win-win for everybody. So we need to increase the number of police officers. Thank you.
I've always owned my own business. for almost the past 20 years. And as a business owner, I know that you need happy employees. You need to prioritize your workforce to get good quality work out of them. And the police, they work for the city, but we don't take care of them well enough. And I'll pick up on what Seth said, because he got cut off. And that is that we cannot hire if we don't pay properly. Other than, if I'm not mistaken, Hialeah, we are the lowest paying municipality for starting cadets. So where are they going to go? They're going to go elsewhere. Or we're going to get the lower quality cadets. And even the commanders in the force right now, they'll tell you, we have good cops and we have bad cops. We need happy cops. And we need neighborhood beat cops. And this is a big thing. Thank you.
I love this question. I started in Crime Watch and I worked with Chief Timoney, who was one heck of a chief, and his police officers knew what community policing was. They knew every neighbor, they knew every need, they knew the age of their neighbors, they knew if people even had a medical problem. They left handwritten notes. Till this day, I have them. I was able to secure the first and only grant for one of my commanders for the only Virginia Key community barbecue. Unfortunately, it was the first and it was the last, because like everything that works in Miami, everything got politicized. Then we had the politicization of the police chief, and there went that. And there went Timmy. Amazing commanders. And in fact, we need to incentivize them. They go through the academy, and then we put them through the academy, we invest in that, and then they go to other cities because they pay better. So I think we're all in agreement with that one. Also...
you must have another time.
Oh, thank you.
I think everyone is pretty much on base that we need to pay better. We lose candidates all the time. And what happens is, in the last class, I think if we interview 1,000 people, we get 200 that we can talk to, and you've eliminated 800 people. We need to pay better, we need to make our benefits better for the police officers that we have. We're going to lose 200 officers in the next year. They've taken a pay cut, not a pay cut, but an incentive because of their 401k. So again, the key element here is that we need to pay these guys better. Here's a novel idea. How about condo buildings having their own security forces or their own policing? You could take the trash. You could take the trash bill that you pay right now that you pay already twice because you pay it on your tax and then you pay it on your HOA. By the way, I'm also an HOA president, so I know what we go through. And I think this might be another idea of maybe bringing some security or some private security, which is something that Lori mentioned. As long as they meet union guidelines, and there's people out there that are wanting to do this, hey, this might be a novel idea. Why don't we put some private security in some of the condo buildings? Thank you.
Well, Williams Armbruster doesn't speculate. I don't say what I think, what I feel, but I speak what I know is true, and that's because I've reviewed the documentation to support what I say. And I did not review the documentation for what I'm about to say right now, but I got from a good, reliable source that there might be 200 people retiring from the police department, but only maybe 10% of those are actually police officers. And when we're going to hire police officers, we should expect more in line with compensating them more. We should hire law enforcement professionals, which means that when we hire you, you have some social skills and you have some psychological skills, and a degree in both of those areas would be great if we hired professionals that had that experience with people when it comes to social things. And so when we hire professionals, they should come in with a degree in sociology, a degree in psychology, and I'll finish later after the meeting.
Let's start with Mr. Gonzalez. We're going to do a yes-no question. Down the line, some of these groups feel that they don't get the adequate police protection, although they pay very high property taxes because the police are focusing on other areas over town, other areas that have more crime. So yes, no. Would you support a Brickell dedicated police unit?
Yes.
Please pass the mic down.
No brainer, yes.
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 Absolutely, with a substation in the middle of Brickell.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir?
I have to review the documentation to substantiate the need for additional police officers in any area in the city of Miami.
Okay.
It's not a yes.
Thank you all. Ms. Solares, let's start with you. Traffic, you raised it earlier. People that live in these very congested cosmopolitan areas have a number of issues, including delivery trucks that block the roads, what seems like every hour of the day. There's concern from the residents here that there is inadequate monitoring of commercial businesses that are creating traffic in these residential neighborhoods that's not being managed. Do you agree with that or not? And what would you do about it if you do?
I agree wholeheartedly, because I am one of those that is going down Brickell and that I cannot move because there is a huge truck right in the middle of Brickell trying to actually negotiate or going into Santa Maria and not being able to be there and not able to get there. We have to do something better to do that. When I see that an application for a building comes in with smaller bays, or when I see that the bays or the entrance to those bays for those buildings are on the main highways, I scream. It has to be in some kind of a collateral street that actually allows for those trucks to stop. That needs to be taken care of, absolutely, yes. That's one of the causes.
You know what? Let's start.
Thank you.
So hard with one mic.
Thank you. I agree as well. I believe that we can look at staggering deliveries. We can also look at commercial transportation lanes so that it's better managed, so that it can work within the communities that it's serving. We have different hours within different neighborhoods, and everything needs to be looked at neighborhood specific so that we can make sure to take consideration to the individuals that live there, as well as support the commerce that's necessary.
For years, I protested at city commissioner meetings when city commissioners allowed less space for loading zones, less loading zones than were required by the zoning code. And finally, I just gave up because they kept giving variance after variance. In addition to which, the police department doesn't enforce any of the traffic loading zone areas in the Brickell area. You have hundreds of restaurants who get deliveries all day long. They block the streets. And if you ask the police to do something about it, they just shrug their shoulders and walk away. I'm tired of it, and I think you are too.
We have all gotten stuck behind those parked trucks. And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, Miami Beach has an ordinance that limits the hours for loading and unloading. And I think that the city of Miami should create an ordinance for the same to help alleviate that. Thank you.
Agreed, absolutely. Ordinances for loading and unloading, and also the things that we have control over as a city. Solid waste pickup during lunch hour and rush hour. You see these trucks will block the lanes. What we need to do is open the arteries into and out of the core. And anything that stops that flow is a problem. And a big stoppage of that flow is the development. But the problem is that development has the ear of our commission. So when they want to take up a lane to do their staging and their waste removal, that's an entire restriction of our flow by half on that street. We need an open government that isn't constricted by the money that finances the commissioners that are there. Because this overdevelopment, and this is only one example of how it does, affects our quality of life. Thank you.
I believe that you design for life. I think that all of us want to live in an oasis of security, of tranquility, and of beauty. But I do know that sometimes we build before we plan. And I have to say that I think the problem is in planning. For all the aforementioned reasons, yes, we all have to go through the growing pains of all of the mistakes that unfortunately other administrations have made that do result in decisions that do impact our life. And that is why I'm running. I'm running because those decisions that were made a long time ago impact our life. I also want to add that police, we have less police because they're taken for construction sites. How many of you have seen construction sites with a couple of police cars with the lights going on? Well, those are less police that are sometimes taken. So maybe that's I think coordination, I think planning.
Hi, it's probably the only candidate that's actually ever driven a truck and had a business that put 4 or 5 trucks on the road. I'll tell you have 2 issues. The main issue is that we don't have places to park. So we don't have places to go, we don't have lanes to go. So we do park in the center median because usually we're delivering early. So we try to park in the center medians because that's really the only access we have. And trust me, I've had 4 trucks on the road, I've had rigs, I've had everything out there. So I know that the issue. The other thing is, if we go back to the policing question, maybe you use these folks to be able to move people along. Because again, going from personal experience, I know that if I'm going to your building or this building, and I know the security guard, I can say, Bobby, wait, give me a little bit of time, I need to get this delivered. And they're gonna give it to me. So I think the main issue is if we're gonna enforce it, we have to enforce it with continuous, and also we have to realize that if we do any ordinances, it has to be specific to the area that's in trouble. Not all areas have parking issues. We do have a parking issue, and we do have a traffic issue. So let's address our issues here. Real time. This is the real world. We got to deal with it right.
When it comes to traffic, you know, the Department of Transportation, we should gather our concerns in the areas where there are the greatest concerns with traffic. Sit down with the Department of Transportation and pick their minds, work together with them to alleviate some of the problems that they can easily alleviate. As in some cases, we can add a 3rd lane, which could be used in the middle for left and right turn lanes, and it wouldn't stop the traffic on 2-lane highways. Where is it all possible? Let the Department of Transportation work together, because we don't have all the answers. We have very few answers because we have so many problems. We have too few answers. So when it comes to issues of transportation, we should work together with those people who will make the final determination of how things will be handled. And that's my position on that.
Thank you. I can't turn mine on. All right, go ahead and keep the microphone. While we're still on the traffic issue, many associations have raised other ideas that I didn't hear from the candidates, such as reduction of speed zones, increased traffic signals, adding of left turn arrows, and other things to facilitate the flow and slow down traffic. Would you support those ideas, or do you have better ideas to help regulate traffic?
I thought I just answered that. The Department of Transportation is our best resource for resolving most of the issues we have when it comes to traffic. And there are some areas where the speed zones should be reduced, because we do have bicycles having total authority over our lanes. Whenever there are 2 bicycles side by side, they have the right of way on all of our roads. So that's something that was implemented without taking into consideration the traffic. As our population is doubling every 40 years in the state of Florida, most of that doubling is coming to South Florida, where development is gone crazy. So if you want to make money, got money, South Florida is the place to go. And with the construction, they do what they do because they don't know any better. So that's what we have to do. DOT, Department of Transportation.
Keeping on traffic, that seems to be the #1 concern of most of the residents. So I'd really like to know, beyond the minute you had before, do you agree with the ideas I raised earlier, or do you have any other proposed solutions to help release or ease the congestion on the roads?
Say that again, reduction in speed zones, what were the other?
Reduction of the speeds and adding traffic control devices. Or suggest your own.
I've always said that the only way we're going to solve traffic is with flying cars. And that's what I'm promised as a commissioner, flying cars. We're going to go to the Jetsons. Again, we go back into what areas we're talking about. Are we dealing with just Brickell? Are we looking at Brickell Drive? Are we looking at, the downtown? What are we looking at and what are we trying to solve? So reduction of speed gives you some advantages, but it'll not speed up the traffic. Traffic signalization is very important. I think that can work in certain areas or certain streets. The classic example, I don't know if you guys take it, is Bird Road. Bird Road, if you take it from the west to the east, it actually, at 40-something miles an hour, you'll make every light. So it's actually a very interesting thing. So if it's a long span, it'll actually work. But again, I think we need to concentrate on what we call the last mile. And the last mile is public transportation. You lose the last mile. How do you get from public transportation, from your main drag, to your place? That's where we need to focus on, last mile. Thank you.
He makes every light because he drives a
For Maserati.
Maserati. No.
I drive a Fiat. I think we're all in agreement. A lot of my family and friends that live in Brickell, they feel that they have nothing accessible. They don't have the amenities at hand. So they find themselves driving out, driving in. If they order a pizza, it takes an hour and a half. It's this kind of stuff because they don't have the amenities. I think with my 5 for Miami plan, I designed an app. And I think that we have to go into collecting live data and synchronizing the traffic lights. Some of the time, the yellow light, the red lights, they're not synchronized. And they've done this in other cities. I think everyone is in agreement here that we have to improve transit with rail, more people taking transit, maybe increasing our ridership more. You know, it's not an easy solution.
Can I have the rest of her minute? Because there's a lot to talk about in traffic. It's an absolute mess, and it's going to get worse and worse. We haven't seen anything yet. There are a lot of solutions, and I do agree with the 2 that you mentioned. And traffic controls, the technology is absolutely there and in place to have smart lights, real-time thinking smart lights that monitor traffic and keep the flow going. I remember, I was born here in '73, and I remember driving downtown in Brickell, and my dad was showing me how you could drive at one point, and the lights would stay green as you kept going at a certain speed. We do not have that anymore. But we could have that along with a lot of other steps to put it together and have a comprehensive traffic plan. And for me, technology is a big part of it. Technology can help us with public transportation. It can make it more convenient, more accessible, more interesting for people to use. We want this city to feel like Manhattan. Our commissioners have built up a beautiful facade of a city that looks like Metropolis, but it's not. We're missing the guts and the infrastructure, and I want to prioritize infrastructure and public transportation.
We have all sat in traffic, and just this summer I went to a transportation summit in Denver. There I was talking to somebody, and I was saying that we need interactive traffic lights that monitor the flow of traffic. So they'll change when they need to, and if there's no cross traffic, it stays green. He was the traffic control guy for Dade County, and he said that we do have those. And I said, no, we don't. Every day I sit at 27th Avenue, 22nd and 17th, and it's all bottled up. What we have is the base unit. We don't have the upgrades that will do that. And that is what is needed. We could also encourage employers to offer flexible hours, to have their employees come in at 7 or 10 a.m. and likewise at the end of the day come. And then the bike lanes, extend the trolleys, and underline.
I like the flex hours. I also ride a bicycle. A year ago I decided that I was going to take the plunge and see if I could get around on a bicycle in public transportation. And I can, and I do, and I get that last mile. And I get to that last mile faster than the people who drive and people who just take transportation and walk. But not everybody can do it, and it's hot out there, and so you need to make accommodations for people to do that. You need showers downtown, you need you need public bathrooms, especially for the homeless. Instead of, everybody complains the homeless use the sidewalks, but they don't provide any kind of public restrooms. The other thing is, there's this man sitting out there I'd like to give a shout out to, Chris Hodgkins. He developed the Miami Tunnel. He did it on time, on budget, and perhaps we should look at tunnels and ramps in the Brickell area, because people going through Brickell to get downtown, there's no reason for them to jam up traffic. The people who work in Brickell that want to get out shouldn't have to go through the city streets. They should be able to get right on that ramp and get out.
Thank you. All of these ideas are wonderful. The synchronization that Teresa just talked about, I think is great. Synchronization in Los Angeles costs $400 million. Right here in Miami will probably be less. We have an enormous problem right now in the county that they don't have the money to actually do anything with transportation. With respect to Brickell, actually, we can do certain things that can start helping the people. Like, for example, on 15th Road and Brickell, we need a left-hand turn right there, or somebody's gonna get killed. We need that as soon as possible. We also need to connect the trolley throughout the entire city, through the entire district too, for that matter. We need to connect Shorecrest with Coconut Grove. We need to actually get those things going. Thank you.
We currently have a team of experts working on our transportation issues. We actually have I believe some of our city commissioners that are actually discussing water taxi services. We need to look at a multitude of ideas to decrease the standard transportation that we're used to. Almost every major city globally that you go into, the urban core is a traffic nightmare. That's one of the things that you get in an urban core. Rather than trying to take it back 20 years ago, what we need to do is embrace the change and look at alternatives. And I think we have an excellent group of people that are working on that. And we need more communication from the city so that we understand what they're looking at so that we can support it going forward.
Miami has some things that Miami Beach doesn't. Your code and ordinances presently allow all of these new developments and high-rises to not build the parking that's required if you're within a certain percentage of feet to what is public transportation. I was surprised to learn this on behalf of my clients. And the developers take the position that they're doing the city a favor, that nobody's going to buy a car if you don't have parking, and therefore public transportation will work, and they keep getting more and more parking reductions. Do you agree that developers should be allowed to reduce the parking requirements in new buildings? Yes or no?
In certain circumstances and certain neighborhoods, yes.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And I warned the city of Miami Beach in 1975.
This is a yes or no.
That was a bad idea.
And it's not a yes or no, because downtown, it would be less parking because you're trying to get people out of their cars and onto the mass transit, onto the trolleys, live, work, play, walk to work, so.
Sorry, is that an...
Maybe.
the current ordinance?
It's not a yes, no. It is, the cart's ahead of the horse in this case. And that goes back to, we want to be like Manhattan, we're not there yet. So, it's not working right now, but we should get there. Yes.
Do you support the current ordinance?
Not in this current form we have of transportation, no.
Ms. Palomino?
I am for I spoke for the reduction. I am definitely for it, especially in the urban core.
Come on, yes or no?
This ain't an easy one. This is an easy one because it's very, very difficult to say yes.
Well, I kind of made this one up.
Hey, how about I give you a maybe? There's no rules, you said in this meeting, right? So I'll give you a yes, no. How's that? Listen, in the urban
It's
core.
not up to me, it's up to the voters. Thank you. Next gentleman.
Never give developers authority over any decision that's made in a diocese. So that would be a no.
When we're talking about parking, let's stick with it. There's been a proliferation of retail and business establishments throughout these corridors, Brickell, Biscayne, downtown. More and more parking is being taken away. If elected, what would be your specific plans to address this issue of lack of parking in your district?
If a business decides to open in an area with inadequate parking already available, they should consider opening their business in an area where parking is available.
You need to revisit Miami 21, plain and simple. If you don't revisit our current zoning laws, and you don't revisit Miami 21, you're gonna get the same old, same old. So we need to do that first. So as these businesses build, they have parking waivers, they have all sorts of waivers they can do. And the reason is we need to look at Miami 21 and say it's not a straight across the board deal. Every area, every section, every place has its own nuances, and you have to take care of it. In the Grove, it's one thing, in Brickell, it's one thing, in Woodwood, it's another. Miami 21 has to be revised. I know it's a big plan, I know it's a big push. We need to look at it again, because some parts work, and some parts, honestly, don't work at all.
I agree, within the district, all the neighborhoods have different needs. That's why I said in the urban core, absolutely yes, I'm for the parking exemption. But I agree, I think Miami 21 has a lot of issues. It keeps changing, it's amended. It was actually created as a jobs program, truth be told. And we are experiencing all of those quirks.
Now that I've got a minute, I don't have to just say yes or no, because it is the same subject actually, and everybody knows less parking is a bad thing. We need it. And when you have a building that doesn't have any parking, in theory that sounds great. I'm going to have a building full of bicycle riders. Not true. In practice, what we end up having right now, because of our infrastructure, we have a building of people who have to park elsewhere. And a lot of times the same developer may have more than one building very near each other, and so the building where he does have a requirement of parking, their residents suffer because all the people from the building that don't need parking end up parking there. So this isn't black and white. We need more parking, we need to incentivize parking, and yeah, that's my position on that.
This actually goes back to your other question. This is more of a transportation problem issue. Because if we have seamless transportation for people, then they are going to get out of their cars and they aren't going to be parking their cars. If they're coming into the urban core, they should be able to park outside of the core, ride mass transit in, and enjoy the city. This is about the live, work, play environment. So, thank you.
If you have less density, you don't need as much parking. The Miami 21 code was a giveaway to developers to allow them to have greater density so they could have more profits. I brought a planner in from Boca Raton to revitalize the City of Miami zoning code when they were redoing it. She was making great progress, and then they decided that they wanted to have more density and more development, and they fired her, and you wound up with Miami 21. I don't like it, I think it was a bad plan, and I think that we have to have less density, so we need less parking.
You know how many times I've been at City Hall fighting the issue of not enough parking and that having an impact on the neighborhoods abutting those buildings or those businesses? Hundreds of times. Because the neighbors have come to me, since I am a representative of the Roads Association, Miami Neighborhoods United, Urban Environment League, to appear before the City Commission and tell them, you can't build this, you cannot allow this business to go there because it's going to kill the quality of life of the people who are living there, have been living there for years. There is no question in the world that Miami 21 needs to be revisited and needs to be amended with respect to the parking and parking requirements.
Miami 21 needs to be more of a living document. When it comes to parking, we need to protect the parking for the neighborhoods with single-family homes and smaller residential areas. when it comes to larger units and urban core, we need to think outside the box and look at alternative methods of parking, alternative sizes of automobiles. It's 2015. When we look into the future, 20 years from now, large SUVs most likely don't make sense anymore. If we can start thinking towards the future and looking for alternatives, we can use stopgap methods such as valet parking and shared parking lots. There is nothing worse than walking around a beautiful environment and coming across a parking lot. There are so many better things we can do in our neighborhoods.
Many of these residents